Hey besties, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Charlotte if you are new, and I'm so happy to have you returning or new or whatever. We like to talk about books over here, and this video is one of my favourite to film every month because of that. I love being able to just sit and yap away about the books I read. So of course it is my October monthly wrap up. I don't know what that was. October was an interesting reading month because I was definitely in like a slump, but I also managed to read the most books that I've ever read in a month, and I'm really not sure how. I think it was all because of my 24-hour readathon, I'm not gonna lie. I think without that we would have been way behind, but it means it's taken me very, very close to my end of year goal, which I'm very excited about. So let's jump into the stats of the October reading month. So I read 11 books in total. 5 of those were physical books, 5 of those were on Kindle, and 1 was an audiobook that I did also dip in and out of the Kindle, although I think I only read and listened, so we'll just say 1 was an audiobook. I read predominantly fantasy this month. I really didn't read kind of too much of other genres, so I read 6 fantasies, 2 magical romances, 2 small town romances, and then I read 1 horror. So a little bit of a mixed bag, a lot of fantasy. October is the season, let's be real, and yeah, I've been really enjoying reading a lot more fantasy. So I'm gonna pull up my reviews because I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember some of the books that I read at the start of the month because there's been a lot. So I started the month with Trial of the Sun Queen. So this is an interesting book. I picked this up because I love trial-based fantasies. That is my favourite like subgenre of fantasy. So I thought this would be absolutely perfect. And I was a little bit disappointed. So this was a 3.5 star rating for me. It is basically about 10 women taking part in a deadly contest to be the Sun King's wife, and the trials are really, really good. I'm not gonna lie, like I don't even remember like what I liked about this book and what I didn't like about this book, because it really just has not stuck in my mind. It was the first book I read at the very start of the month, and I obviously have read a lot of fantasy since then, so that could be why. So in this book, our main character has been in prison for the last 12 years. We don't really know why, and she also doesn't really know why, but then she is released basically and sent into these trials as one of the tributes for the role of the Sun Queen. So she's really confused by it all. Like, she's not a citizen of the Sun King court, like she's not part of that world or part of that kingdom, I guess. So she is like a little bit confused, and if she doesn't win the trials then she is returned basically, and she will go back to prison under the reign of the Aurora King. It's very confusing. It was a fairly quick read. I think the main issue with it just didn't stand out enough. Like I didn't fall in love with the characters. It was super quick read, super quick. Like I was flying through it, but like I don't think that's always the best in a fantasy, because I think sometimes like with a fantasy, when you can read it really quickly, I find that it often means that it's not like super developed. Like personally, I know that typically it will take me a certain amount of time to read a 400-page fantasy, and it will take me a considerably, like almost half the time to read a 400-page romance. So like I want my fantasies to have a lot more depth, whereas I found this one didn't have a huge amount of depth, and there was quite a few different POVs, and it was all a little bit confusing because you were kind of discovering things with characters, but like we weren't discovering them in full. There was definitely stuff that like would be found out in the next books, but I don't think I'm going to carry the series on. It's quite a long series, which I didn't realise, I don't think, when I picked it up, and I don't really feel invested enough with the characters to want to pick it up again basically. So that is the first book that I read, and then I went into Metallinger, which I was really, really excited to read. I did find this book really hard to get into. A big portion of this book takes place at sea, which I won't get into too much because I do think that might be a little bit of a spoiler, but a big part takes place at sea. and I didn't really like that, I'm not gonna lie. This is about Bryn, who spent most of her life wanting the chance to attend the annual market hosted by the Kenta, the very same people who exiled the Alaha to live a life over the sea. A rite of passage for all young guards, but she's not sure what to expect from it. But breaking a century-long peace treaty certainly isn't on her map. So she basically ends up having like this encounter with an enemy soldier, and it causes some issues. She returns home and we follow the story from there. This is like a really insane story. Like, it goes crazy. I found it really hard to get into, and it got to a point where I was like, I sat down and forced myself to read it. So this took me, I'm gonna just look at the days that it took me to read it. So it took me from the 4th of October to the 11th of October, so just over a week, I think, which for me is a long time to read a book. Like, that, it's very, very rare that a book takes me that long, especially because it's like it's not a super long book. It's not like I was reading Kingdom of Ash. Like, it's not a crazy long book that I feel should like warrants taking that amount of time. So yeah, however, the ending of this book, oh my god, I'm gonna be reading the next one. I didn't feel like connected to characters, but like I just need to read the next one because I have never ever read a fantasy book with an ending like that. I was so confused. I was absolutely gobsmacked. I really wish I was filming it as part of a reading vlog because I was in absolute shock and awe. Like, my mouth was on the floor. I've never been more shocked by the ending of a book, quite possibly ever. It was absolute insanity. But I did also end up giving that one a 3.5 stars overall, purely because I found it so hard to get into and so hard to want to read. But I also am not sure if I was just slumping. Like, I really do not know with that one. So I would maybe take that with like a little bit of a grain of salt as well. So after that, I decided to pick up the Pumpkin Spice Cafe because I would have been feeling so slumpy. I thought that perhaps I was just in need of a small town easy romance rather than trying to just push through all of these fantasies. So we read the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. It was really cute, really easy, fun read. It is about, I can't even remember my character's name. It's about Jeannie, whose aunt basically gifts her the Pumpkin Spice Cafe in Dream Harbour because she decides to take early retirement. Jeannie's been going through a really hard time with like work and stress around work, and she's just feeling very stressed and very worried about her health. So she decides to take a step back and run the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, which, running your own business will never be taking a step back. And there's something that really grinds my gears as someone that used to run a business when like books make a thing of, oh, like they're taking a step back to run their own business. Bitch, where? Like, you're not taking a step back. That's actually so intense. Anyway, that's why Jeannie moves to Dream Harbour. She very quickly meets Logan, who is your stereotypical small town romance guy. He's a little bit grumpy. He's handsome. The ladies love him. The town is very protective over him. He's gone through some rough things in his past, but there is this instant attraction, which is the first thing I didn't really love. I don't love an instant attraction in a romance book. I like to build up to it a little bit. And we do kind of end up seeing them like on this mystery. It's not like a true mystery. It's not like giving thriller or anything like that, but they have like a little mystery that they're going to solve together. And we just kind of follow them on their journey. It was cute, it was fun, it was a really quick read. I think it took me like 4 hours to read the whole book, which was great. It definitely felt like it helped me get out of my slump just finishing a book like that quickly. The main issue I had with it was written in third person and there was spice, and I feel like if you've been here on this channel, you might know I just really despise books that are written in third person and have spice. It makes me feel incredibly uncomfortable. Like, I don't like reading the third person spice, especially when it's quite graphic spice. Like, it's just weird, it's uncomfortable, it feels like audio described corn. It's not for me. Not for me at all. So I did end up giving that a 3.5 stars, and I don't think I'm going to continue the series with that one either. I have heard some like pretty not great things about the next books in the series, so I think my journey with the Dream Harbour series came to an end with the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. I was glad that I read it though, like I'm glad that I'm in the loop now because I feel like it's a very hyped TikTok book. Okay, it gets better from here, I promise, because I feel like these last few have been quite negative. So I then picked up Lightlock. This is the first one that we have the physical copy for. Oh my god, why do more people not talk about this book? Tell me why. Please, I need to know. Because this book is absolutely incredible. This is about the Isle of Lightlock, which appears every 100 years for 100 days, and the rulers of all of the 6 realms basically have to fight to break their curses and win unparalleled power. But each ruler has something to hide. Each curse is like horrific. To break those curses, one ruler must die, and they need to break the curses to save the realms. But oh, this book is absolutely incredible. I really don't know why like more people don't talk about it, because this series as a whole is so good. The romance, the drama, the magic, the twists and turns. At no point did I know what was going to happen or how these would end. I was absolutely gobsmacked the whole entire time. Again, the ending isn't quite Metal Slinger level, but like it's getting there. Like I was shocked, I was surprised, I was taken aback, and this was, as I'm sure we're all thinking at this point, this was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely adored it. And we'll just talk about Nightbane straight after. So I didn't read them one after the other. I did have a little bit of a break because I wanted to wait until Nightbane came out on paperback. But again, a 5-star read. It carried on perfectly from the other story. I feel like you can tell when I love a book because I read it so fast, it literally doesn't even look like it's been read. Like it's not puffed out or anything. It looks like I didn't read it. I have read it, I promise. Yeah, absolutely love this. I loved how it carried on, and I loved how it had the same kind of like plot structure almost as Lightlock, where we have some really big reveals towards the end. I am so excited for the next book in the series to come out this month. I know that it's going to be an incredible time, and I'm so scared, I'm so nervous, but I also just absolutely can't wait. You guys, you need to read this series. You need to read this series. So good. 5-star series so far, and for a second book to like have been as good as this one, like you know it's good, because normally the second book is not good. But as we can tell, I adored the series. Okay, after Lightlock, I went into Let's Split Up by Bill Wood, with the beautiful sprayed edges. So this is the first horror that I've ever read, so some of my opinion may just be based off of the fact that it is a horror. This is about a group of teenagers, and basically the popular the popular couple, I guess, is brutally murdered in a house that the town is like, it's a haunted house basically, like real life haunted house. And this group of teenagers then go a little bit Scooby-Doo, and they're like, we're gonna solve the murder. This was interesting, and it was really fun to try a new genre. However, I didn't love it. It is YA, and I think this is one of those books that falls into like me just being a little bit too old for it, and that's okay, that's fine. I think there's some YA thrillers and crime, for example, a lot of Holly Jackson's I don't feel too old for, but I do find that like, I guess as I read more, I struggle more with YA, and this was just one of them. I think there were things I just didn't like about it. There were some inaccuracies. It's obviously written by a British person. Some of the just like inaccuracies about like high school and stuff just ground my gears a little bit. I don't like things like that because they can be such they're such easy things to check. That's obviously just personal. I know some people don't care, but yeah. There was a little things in this book, like it's set in 2001, but people had cell phones, like, and I don't really feel like teenagers had cell phones in 2001, like, it wasn't that, yeah. Anyway, and we don't want to go on a complete rant about this. I did read this in my reading spooky books video. Obviously it's past Halloween, but if you want to see all of my full thoughts whilst reading it, I'd recommend checking that out. This did end up being a 3.5 star for me. It just, yeah, I found it a little bit predictable, kind of knew where it was going. I don't know if this is a genre for me as well. I'm not normally like a thriller reader or anything like that. I just wanted to give it a go and support Bill. But yeah, following on from that, I read Heartless Hunter. Oh my god, this book was incredible. Well, Heartless Hunter because on Goodreads it's the American version. If you're in the UK and I think anywhere else in the world, The Crimson Moth. Oh my gosh. This is about a witch hunter and a witch. It's like a witch vigilante as well who's going around saving the witches, and we see their romance and oh my god. Oh my god. It was perfect, it was beautiful, it was amazing. I absolutely adored it. Obsessed. Obsessed is the only way that I can describe it. I loved it so much and I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the second book because the ending of this book, again, not quite metallinger levels but close. I was crying. I finished this book at like 6 in the morning. It was incredible. It was a fantastic experience. Again, this is also in my spooky season vlog, so I will not go into too much detail. I will not bore you with the details, but absolutely adored it. And of course it was a 5-star read, which is always the most fun. So I then picked up Dead Romantics. Again, this is another book that is in my spooky vlog, so again, won't go too deep into it. It is about Florence, who is a ghostwriter. However, she's kind of got the problem where like, so she's a ghostwriter for fantasy, for romance books. However, she like doesn't really believe in love anymore, which is obviously super problematic. Like, how are you going to write about romance books when you don't believe in love? And she can't make like a happy ending because of that, basically. But then she gets a new editor and he basically like will not give her any extensions or anything like that. So she is like, okay, like I'm gonna be done. Like, there's no way that I'm gonna be able to get this book done. However, she then gets some really, really bad news and she has to head to her hometown, and the last thing she expects to see is a ghost at her front door. Florence can see ghosts, and when she is at home, a ghost turns up on her front door, but it's her new editor, who she also kind of has a crush on, and she's like, why are you here? Like, I literally saw you at a bar last night. How are you now here in that form? Crazy. We kind of then see a little bit the journey between the stuff that Florence has going on at home and why she's had to come home, but also like the journey that she is having with Benji, her editor slash ghost, and why, like, them figuring out why he's still like hanging around like in the transition period between alive and dead, which is really interesting. And a lot is revealed. I didn't love this book as much as I loved The 7-Year Slip. It didn't hit quite the same. I didn't really like the ending of this one. It felt a bit silly, which I guess you could say the whole book is silly. It's literally about a ghost and a woman like having a romance. But yeah, I didn't really like love the ending of this one. It didn't really hit for me, and I did give this, oh, I think I just gave this straight up 3 stars. No, surely not. I never give things 3 stars. It looks like I gave it 3 stars. I think I maybe gave it 3.5 stars because 3 stars is really low for me. Let me check Fable. Okay, no, I gave this 3.75 stars. It just didn't quite hit. Like, 7-Year Slip was a 5-star read for me. This just didn't. It didn't do it the same for me. I didn't like the characters as much. I kind of found the romance a little bit uncomfortable, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, it didn't quite do it for me. The next book I read was Nightbane. Obviously we've gone through that. So then I read Hexappeal. So this was the book that was an audiobook. I borrowed this from Libby. Thoughts and feelings are mixed. I enjoyed part of this book. I think I enjoyed this more than Hex in the City, which I read in September. It was okay, it wasn't the best. So this is about Essie, who is a witch. She lives in Essex in like this big crazy house that can move itself around. It stays hidden. And Josh, who is an American who's just moved to Essex because of some relationship trauma, and he inherited this house slash estate from his dad's passing. So we kind of, basically, where Essie lives, like is actually owned by like Josh's ancestors, and like they've not paid rent for 300 years, so he's like, I need to chase these people for rent. And we kind of, that's how the journey starts. We see them become kind of close. We see like the enchantments of the fact that if you've been to the house you don't remember you've been to the house, and all of that stuff. And we basically see how these two characters are tied to each other through centuries. And yeah, I can't really go into too much detail because it is like, they don't really give a lot away in these books in the plot. As I said, I enjoyed it more than Hex and the City. It followed a very kind of similar plot in terms of like the things that happen at different chapters. I enjoy these books in audio form because they have really, really long chapters. Like the chapters are genuinely like close to an hour long, which is just too much for a romance book, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, I think it works really, really well in audio form. I did give this 3.5 stars. It wasn't anything special. I don't think it's a book that I'll see myself thinking about on a regular basis, which for me is kind of just like a standard 3.5 star read. Yeah, it was fun. It was an okay time. It was good for spooky season. I think that sums up all of my thoughts. And then I decided to start my Throne of Glass journey with the Assassin's Blade. I loved this. So I had actually started the Assassin's Blade back in February, but I started it like pretty much the same week that I started my current job, which was my new job then. And I could not, like, I was struggling. The new girl was struggling going into full-time work. So I didn't get too far through it, and I was reading on Libby, and then my Libby expired basically before I could finish it. So I'd already read like the first half. I'd read like 2 of the story, well 2.5 of the stories. I just hadn't read The Assassin in the Underworld and The Assassin in the Empire, and like the very like last chapter I think of The Assassin in the Desert. And I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed reading all of the chapters that I'd read, like the stories I'd already read again. I enjoyed the story as a whole, and we're not going to talk about Throne of Glass in this video because I had finished it in November, but I did then read Throne of Glass like a few days after finishing this, and I can't imagine reading that book not having read Assassin's Blade first, because there's so many things that they talk about in that book, because it's like Throne of Glass literally picks up a year after the Assassin's Blade ends. And I can't imagine reading that book not knowing everything I know in this, because they like the events of this book are talked about, and I can't imagine like not knowing them. Like it feels like it would be really, really confusing, like, and not in an intriguing way. I feel like I would feel like I've missed out on something. So I think even if I hadn't have started with this, I think I would have gone back and read it anyway, like stopped reading Throne of Glass and got back and read it and then picked Throne of Glass up again. So I'm really glad that I've done that reading order already. I feel like it would be so weird to do it in the like the right order, like the one that SJM recommends. So I don't know, but yeah, I enjoyed this a lot. I feel invested in our character. This is quite an emotional book. Like it's, yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I don't really know what to say, like, because I don't think I've ever read a series of novellas. So yeah, it's, like I've read like novellas, but not like a series, like a whole book of them. So yeah, not really sure how to talk about it, but I did very much enjoy this, and it was a really fun time. It was also a really, really quick read as well. And then we have our final book of the month, book 11. I read That Kind of Guy, I think it's called. Yeah, That Kind of Guy, which is the first book in the Queen's Cove series by Stephanie Archer. I absolutely love this. This was hilarious. I was cracking up. If you want a rom-com series to read, because I'm reading book 2 at the moment and it's just as funny. If you want some rom-coms to read, let me tell you, read this damn series. It is so funny. So funny. I was absolutely cracking up. But also, like, I loved the romance. This was a 4.5 star for me, which is like the highest I've rated a romance in so long. Like, I haven't, like, a pure romance, not like a fantasy romance or like the 7 Year Slip where it's not too much of a romance. This is a pure small town romance, and it was a 4.5 stars for me. I adored it. It was so good, so fun. It's a fake fiance trope, and just like the way that they go about it is so fun and just funny, like hilarious. Also a super quick read. I read this in like, again, like 4 hours, which I just love a romance book that you can read in such a short amount of time. It was really fun. And yeah, I'm gonna stop saying it was really fun. It's not highly rated, I'm not gonna lie, which I'm kind of surprised about, because I just found it so funny. Like, the whole series is just funny. Like, some of the things the characters say is just hilarious, and I think it's intentionally funny. Like, I don't think it's like I shouldn't be laughing, and I'm laughing at the book rather than with the book. But yeah, really enjoyed it. I think if you want like a small town romance, that is a really good one. It is about Avery, who runs a restaurant, and she basically wants to take over the restaurant, but she doesn't have enough money. And Emmett, who isn't like a relationship kind of guy, but he decides that he wants to run for mayor of their town, because the current mayor like has never run with competition or anything like that. So he decides he's going to run for mayor, although he's not polling well because he's not a relationship kind of guy. People are like, I don't know if we can trust you, because you know, like, it's a small town, people have that kind of mindset. So him and Avery come to a deal where he will help her if she helps him, and they start a fake relationship which ends up becoming a fake engagement, and it just escalates from that, and it's so funny and it gets really out of control. But yeah, it was really good, really enjoyable read. I would definitely recommend it if you just want something quick on Kindle Unlimited and you want to have a little giggle as well and some good spice. But yeah, that is the 11 books that I read in October. I have 11, well, I now have 10 books left of my Goodreads goal. When I finished these books, when I finished October basically, I had 11 left, so hopefully we will finish my November, my yearly goal at the end of November, which is insane. 75 books. Would it be crazy? I've never read that amount in a year before. So yeah, very good reading month in terms of the amount read. Obviously quality wasn't too great, but I do find that the more I'm reading, the stricter I become, like, of a rater. But yeah, that is everything from me. If you've read any of these books and enjoyed, please let me know. If you disagree with some of my opinions, let me know. I love having a little chat. But yeah, that is everything from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you sticking around, and I will hopefully catch you in the next one. Bye!